employment program, enhanced fisheries loan guarantee program, and supports in Harbour Breton and other areas where plants have closed in the past. The provincial government has indicated it will support those affected by these recent closures. We are ready and willing to move forward with a suite of programs and services in that regard. However, what the FFAW seems to be saying is that those affected a few weeks ago deserve more than those who have availed of these programs in the past, people in places like Trouty and Galtus. Is this a double standard to be advocating more for workers in Marystown or Port Union than other workers in the province have received? Mr. McCurdy has requested a copy of the Deloitte report, the FPI implementation agreement, and the detailed OCI, yellowtail, and redfish proposal. First of all, let me be very clear for you today that those documents are not government's to release. Take some questions after I have a sip of water.
You say you haven't made a decision on OCI yet, but basically by criticizing the FFAW here, aren't you in effect agreeing with OCI's view of fishery more so than the FFAW's?
Well, I think the OCI's view of the fishery has merits, but my point here today is not to defend OCI or anyone else in the processing sector. My point here today is to react to statements made by Mr. McCurdy this morning, and he made some very strong statements about us as a government and the Premier and about the future of the fishery. And you know, let's face it, all of you here who've been reporting for the last number of years will remember the MOU process. You remember the vision that was articulated in the MOU process. And the MOU vision talked about a fishery of the future where there was rationalization, where we strive towards an industry that's self-sustainable, an industry that will support the attraction of new, younger workers. If the will of the people and the will of the FFAW is that we throw all of that away on the principle that Marystown shouldn't close, well, then we're prepared to support that. But I want to know very clearly where the FFAW stands on Fortune and on the harvesters, and I want to know where the people of the province stand. But all I'm trying to do is point out that the tough decisions are going to get a lot tougher if we're not prepared to accept a compromise of shipping some fish out of the province for processing in the short term.
Well, sounds like you'd prefer to get away, or at least you'd like to do something finally about getting away from the seasonal stamped up cycle that exists in rural Newfoundland and Labrador and get into full-time work, even if it means fewer plants and the hardship, as you say, the hardship of people losing their jobs.
It's not necessarily that I want to see to get away from the seasonality. I think that there are many communities in this province where do we need to hear before we finally say enough is enough. Let's get down to work. Everyone park their agendas at the door and work through the difficult decisions that have to be made. Another question is, who does the FFAW truly represent? By saying, as they did today, the Fortune proposal is not viable, they are indicating that they are prepared to sacrifice the jobs for the fish plant workers in Fortune, as well as the offshore harvesters. How can an organization with this kind of degree of institutional paralysis expect anyone to take them seriously? If the FFAW feels that subsidizing the fishery, cross-subsidizations from other plants and other species, is the only option, then they are nowhere near where our government is in our line of thinking. Premier,